I don't want you to take more risk. All I want you to do is start thinking, how can I keep more of every dollar and have that dollar compound and grow for the rest of my life? Guaranteed. It is not about how much you make. It's about how much you can keep. Good morning, everybody. How is everyone doing today on this fine Tuesday morning? You guys are in for a treat because this is something that I have gone over a few times, and I actually get paid to present this on stage, what you guys are going to learn today. So, super valuable information. I want you guys to really, really pay attention because it can set things to a whole nother level for you when it comes to your money, your wealth, how you perpetuate that wealth throughout your life, throughout next generation for your kids, how their kids, so your grandkids can perpetuate that wealth. Very, very important. So, question for all you guys in the chat. How many of you guys on this webinar, and you can put in the chat or raise your hand or whatever, how many of you have wanted more money for anything? Anything in life? How many of you have wanted more money for basically anything? I should see everyone's hands going up. Arturo Cortez, thank you for dropping in. Guys, when it comes to money, you can't really do anything without money, right? Money is something that you need. You need it for food, you need it for shelter, you need it for transportation, you need it for investing, you need it for everything. So you can never have too much money. I think we'd all agree on that. Once you get enough of it, it's less about the money. It's more about the game. You start gamifying money, and that's what you want to get to. You want to get to where you are gamifying money because you've got plenty. Like right now, guys, I have plenty of money. I don't need to make more. Passively, we make plenty. So I don't need to make more, but it's the game. It's fun to actually go out there and get better at the game of making money, keeping money, perpetuating money. So what I'm going to share with you guys today is a wealth building strategy where you can acquire more money for retirement. You can acquire more money for your kids, your family. You can acquire more money for investing, for real estate deals. Whatever you are using money for now, which is everything, I'm going to show you how to get more of it. And what I'm going to teach you guys is not difficult. It's really not difficult. It's actually very simple. All I'm going to show you guys how to do is change one thing about what you do with money right now, and it will change everything. It is not difficult. You guys have just never been taught to think about money like this, to think about money the way banks think about money. Okay? Banks think about money a heck of a lot different than most people. I'd say 99% of the population. So why do banks have all the money? Because of the way they think. So what today is going to be mostly about is your mindset. What goes on between your ears? If you can change what's going on up here, what I'm going to teach you guys is very, very simple, but you have to view it as a mindset shift. So I need you guys to keep an open mind. What I'm going to show you guys today is how to become your own bank. Very, very important when it comes to making money because of how banks operate, how banks think. So keep an open mind because, again, this is mostly just mindset. If you can really just keep an open mind, this will blow your mind. It'll blow your mind what's possible. So why listen to me? If you guys are new to me, Devin Burr, if you've never really followed me for a while, my story, pretty simple. I am not cut from like a silver spoon. I don't come from a rich family, lower middle class family, one of six siblings. So hand-me-downs were a thing. My dad would go around the house closing doors because the AC was on, turning off light switches. So I come from like a scarcity mindset family, and I struggled throughout my 20s, jumping from job to job. At 31 years old, I was bankrupt. I had $300 to my name, and I was charging credit cards just to pay bills. And then I'd have to pay that bill by taking a cash advance from a credit card. I was in really, really deep debt, and I didn't see a way out. So I had to do a bankruptcy. I was almost homeless. My daughter and I, you can see my older daughter Haley on the right. I was a full-time dad, so I had to move her and I in with a friend of mine. I had to rent a room from him. I had to sell most of my belongings just to afford that rent. So I was at kind of rock bottom. I got my heart broken by a woman I thought was going to be the one, and it just hit me that I need to start working on me. I need to become a better version of myself, or I'm just going to keep getting these things in life that I was getting, which was failure, heartbreak. So I started working on myself, and this was in 2016. I slowly started turning things around. In 2019, I was making six figures a year. I had $175,000 in my 401k. I had become successful by most people's standards. And I still felt broke. I still felt like I was broke because you guys can agree with me or not, but job, it stands for just over broke. That's how I felt. So October 8th of 2019, walked into my job at Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, and I resigned. I just quit and I became a full-time real estate investor. Luckily, my wife, Danielle, she did pretty well at the company. That's where we met. And I was able to go be a real estate investor without pressure because her income would pay all the bills. So 2019, I become a full-time real estate investor. And I learned about the Burr method. I'm like, my last name is Burr. Why don't I just be Mr. Burr, the guy that does that method? And I started doing really well. From my first deal was January of 2020 until March. I did 10 real estate deals, zero marketing. I would just go to local meetups and start JVing deals. For those of you that don't know, that's called joint venture. So I would just partner up with people and I started doing well. And then COVID hit March of 2020. Meetups went away. So I'm sitting in my house trying to become better, a better version of me. I'm reading books, I'm watching inspirational videos on YouTube, I'm listening to podcasts. Guys, I heard a podcast about what I'm going to teach you guys about becoming the bank, and it changed everything. When I heard that podcast, it was the summer of 2020. My net worth was about 300 grand, and I was on pace to make like $160,000 that year as a full-time investor. So pretty good my first year. As it sits today, guys, I make about 2 million a year and have a net worth of almost 6 million. Actually a little bit more than 6 million. So not telling you guys to brag because it's really not that much money when you think like Elon Musk has probably like 200 billion. So I just tell you guys that because to go from 160,000 a year, 300 grand in net worth to 2 million, 6 million net worth is a big difference. And it's because of what I learned. I'm going to teach you guys. It's very simple, but it's it's not a difficult concept. Again, it's just about what's going on up here. So really, really try to keep an open mind because this will change a lot for you guys. It changed a lot for me. So what I'm going to teach you is not a new concept. Most of you have probably heard of or read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Can we get a raise of hands? Whoever has read that book, knows that book. Robert T. Kiyosaki read the book, or I'm sorry, wrote the book. And he talks about what I'm going to tell you guys in his book, Second Chance. Incredible book. I would definitely check it out. He keeps things really, really simple. So I like Robert T. Kiyosaki's his books, just simple. Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. I believe it's back on this bookshelf. I have that book. Incredible book. He talks about this in his book, Money Master the Game. Becoming Your Own Banker. I have read this book, guys, probably 11 times, cover to cover. It's 70 to 80 pages. So very simple book to read, but this is something, if you guys don't read any of these other books, please read Becoming Your Own Banker. It will really open your eyes to what's possible with what I'm going to teach you guys. The other two are just by my mentor, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery and the Private Money Guide. So great books. If you guys want to take a picture of this slide, I would recommend reading all of them. So, question for you guys: who learns things really, really quickly? Who learns things quickly? Is it us as adults or is it kids? Do kids learn quick or do adults learn quick? Obviously, we all know kids learn very, very quickly. They're sponges. It's insane how quick kids learn. Think about all of you on this webinar, I'm certain, have learned how to ride a bike. You learned how to ride a bike when you were a kid. It's not difficult, right? You pedal, that makes the bike go forward. You turn the handlebars to the right and the bike goes right. You turn the handlebars to the left, the bike goes left. Very simple concept, right? If I changed one thing about that bike, just one thing, and that is if you turn the handlebars left, the bike goes right. And if you turn the handlebars right, the bike goes left. How many of you could ride that bicycle? If any of you say yes, I can assure you, you can't. You just cannot do it because you've been taught from a young age how a bike works. So if you change that, the brain doesn't compute. Money is the exact same way. You have been trained by the system to think about money a certain way. And that is why most people are broke because they are trained and taught how money works the way the system wants you to think about it. They don't want you to know how money really works. So your money is the same as that backward bicycle. It's very difficult to change the way you think about money, even if it's just one thing, but it's not impossible. If you guys look up a video on YouTube, the backward bicycle, you'll see this guy does this experiment where he turns the handlebars right, bike goes left. He tries to ride this backward bicycle. He can't get more than a couple feet. But eventually, after like a week of trying, he finally learns how to ride that backward bicycle. Guess what though? You put him on a regular bicycle, now he can't do it because his brain has changed. I want you guys to think that way. What I'm going to try to do here is change the way you think about money. I'm going to challenge the way you think about money because here's a quote I love. It's by Will Rogers. The problem in America is not so much what people don't know. It's what they think they know that just ain't so. Such a good quote. So you guys think you might know how money works, how it all operates, but I can assure you guys you don't. And if you did, you wouldn't be on this webinar. You'd be multi-millionaire, deca-millionaire because you've figured it out. So I want you guys to keep an open mind. Again, this is a lot about mindset. If you can change the way this thing operates up here when it comes to money, you guys can really, really accelerate your money, your wealth, everything. All right. So let's talk about the mysteries of money real quick. What is the definition of money? Can any of you guys tell me that? In the chat, what is the definition of money? What is money? Please tell me, somebody. If someone gets this right, I know you have seen this before, but please tell me, what is the definition of money, guys? And Gil said he could absolutely ride that backward bicycle. Gil, if you can ride the backward bicycle, my friend, I might write you a check for an undisclosed amount. I guarantee you can't do it. So, guys, what is the definition of money? Can anybody tell me? The definition of money is simply a means of exchange. That is it. It's just a means of exchange. So, if you have money for food, you get food for money. If you have money for a car, you get the car for the money. Money for house, house for money. It's just a means of exchange. That is it. Okay. What companies out there use compound interest, guys? Can you tell me what companies in the nation use compound interest? Can anybody tell me? Rich says banks. Does everyone agree with Rich that banks use compound interest? Mark says none. Okay. Who agrees with Rich and who agrees with Mark? If you agree with Mark, you guys are correct. There's not one company that uses compound interest. Think about this, guys. For money to compound, it has to sit. It has to sit in order to compound. Money does not sit at companies. Money does not sit at banks. When you deposit money in the bank, they immediately lend it out. They do that as much as possible. So it does not compound at any company. Gil says New York Life. They don't use compound interest. They might pay compound interest, but they don't use it. You see, guys, life insurance companies, New York Life is a life insurance company. When premiums come into them, they have to deploy those in order to make money in order to pay death benefits. So they don't use compound interest either. They're constantly deploying money. But think about what we've been taught. We've been taught to put our money somewhere, let it sit, let it grow, hope it's enough when we retire. 401ks, IRAs, a money market, a savings account. We've been taught to let money sit. Yet no company, no bank, no insurance company, no company uses compound interest. But we've been taught to do it. So trying to get you to think a little differently here. Now, are your dollars worth more today or in the future? Because of inflation, they're definitely worth more today. We've been taught, though, to again, not spend our money today. Put it aside, spend it later when we're old and gray. That makes no sense. You want to spend your good dollars today. Spend the dollars that are worth the most today and pay them back with dollars that are worth less later on. That's what you want to do. That's what the wealthiest families do. That's what the banks do. Think about a 30-year mortgage, right? We've been taught to pay it off quickly. Yet, if you think about the government, they're going into debt with what's called a T bill. So they go into debt, that causes inflation. So then they're paying that debt back with weaker dollars that they caused. We just want to play the same game. Use money now when it's worth the most. Pay it back later when it's worth less. Okay? Taxes, do they go up or do they go down? They go up, right? If they don't go up, they just find different things to tax us on. Am I right or am I right? You're going to get taxed on pretty much everything. You're going to get taxed when you make money. Then when you make it, you're going to get taxed when you spend it. And then when you buy something like a house, you're going to get taxed on the house and the land. It's stupid. But they always go up. They don't go down. We've been taught, though, to defer taxes. So like a 401k, for instance, don't pay the taxes now. Defer them until a later date when you're retired. That's the dumbest thing you could do because they're probably going to be a lot higher and you're always going to have the taxes. So you're compounding the taxes if you do like a retirement account. Think about it. Would you rather pay taxes on the seed, so the money that's going in, or the harvest, all the money later on? You definitely want to pay it on the seed and then never pay taxes again. That's what I'm going to teach you guys how to do here. All right. We do things with money we would never do with things that money buys. You would never go to the supermarket, buy a loaf of bread, put it in a freezer, wait 10, 15, 20 years before you eat it. You would never do that. Yet we do that with money. We put it in a place and wait 10, 15, 20 years before we use it. Because if we use it, we're penalized. We're handcuffed to this 401k, this IRA, this 403b, whatever we've been told is the right thing to do with our money. And it's just wrong, guys. So, what do you actually know about your retirement accounts? Most people have no idea what's going on with their retirement account. They don't know where the money's at. They don't control the money. There's no guarantee that you're going to make money in a retirement account. There's no guarantee that you won't lose money in a retirement account. Yet most people, that's where they put their money. They put 19, 20 grand, whatever the limit is on a 401k. They do that every year. 6,000 a year in an IRA, whatever the limit is. They do that every single year because that's what we've been taught. That's the right thing to do with money. Yet we know nothing about it. So, guys, I'm just trying to get you to think differently than what you've probably been thinking for your entire life. Okay. So let's talk about how money flows. This is super important. If you guys can grasp this, what I'm going to show you guys, this is a very simple concept. Becoming your own bank is very simple if you can grasp this. Okay. So let's say you guys are going to buy a car. Okay. Don't get hung up on the price. Let's say it's a $25,000 car, but don't get hung up on the price. This will work with anything. I just want you to pay attention to the concept. So let's say you're going to save up for a car inside of a bank that's paying you 4% interest. Most banks do not pay anywhere close to that, obviously, but let's pretend you found a really good bank. Okay. You're going to save up the money in there. And instead of, or I'm sorry, you're going to save the money in there and you're going to buy the car. So let's say you go to the bank and you say, you know what? I want to take $25,000 out of this bank that's earning 4%. I want to buy a car cash. If I was the banker, I would tell you, don't do that. Do not remove your $25,000 from this bank paying you 4%. Instead, I'll give you a loan at 6% for 5 years, and you will pay me less interest at 6% than you will earn at 4%. Am I lying to you? Am I a grimy banker? You're going to earn 4, you'll earn more in 5 years than you will pay at 6%. Our brains say, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to pay more. 6% is more than 4%. It's the difference between simple and compound interest. Okay, guys, check this out. You can do the math. On this simple interest loan at 6%, the payment is just under 500 bucks. That means you'll pay almost 29,000 for the car. Your future value in this bank is 30,500. So the difference is your bank balance kept going up. So the amount of interest you earn keeps going up. It's compounding. With the car, your balance is going down. So the amount of interest you pay is constantly going down. So you guys can see here, you make $1,500 over 5 years and you own the car. It's your car. You made 1,500 bucks. So this is just to show you guys that you can make money all day long paying 6% while earning 4. Okay. And you could do a different number. You could say paying 7, paying 8. You'd still make money and you own the car. It's just, again, the difference between simple and compound interest. So if you guys can really understand this, becoming your own bank is very simple. All right. So what we're going to talk about, guys, real quick is the money multiplier method. We're going to talk about the machine that we're going to use to keep your money flowing. We're going to talk about the fact it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. Getting rich quick is not something that is generally possible without a ton of risk. So this is a marathon. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a get rich for sure scheme. And we'll talk about being a millionaire. We should probably change this to multi-millionaire because that's what people really need and want these days. All right, so the machine that we are going to use, guys, it's nothing more than a dividend paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned company. Now, guys, when I present this on stage, this is generally when I look out in the crowd and I see like the glazed over eyes. I see someone getting up and going to the bathroom because they're thinking, what in the hell? Life insurance? Like, why in the hell would we use life insurance? It's really simple. The wealthiest families in the nation have used life insurance, just like I'm going to teach you guys. The Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Ray Kroc with McDonald's, Walt Disney with Disneyland. I mean, you talk about the Vanderbilt, not the Vanderbilts. The name is skipping my mind right now, but one of the wealthiest families ever used this, including the Rockefeller family. Also, banks. Banks own more life insurance than all of their buildings and the land that those buildings are on combined. So all the buildings, all the land that they own more life insurance than that. And most people say, oh, real estate, real estate, real estate, location, location, location. Yet they own more life insurance. Is it because the banks are stupid? Or is it because they know something that we don't know? So you guys can do your research. Bank of America alone owns 24 billion with a B in specially designed whole life insurance. Wells Fargo, almost 20 billion. JP Morgan Chase, 5.2. You guys get the point. They own a lot of life insurance. And it's because they're very smart with money. So let's talk about how banks operate. This is super important to understand. We want to mimic what banks do. They're very good with money. So we want to mimic what they do. If we mimic what they do, we can get what they get, which is a lot of profit and a lot of money. So let's say you guys deposit, round number, $100,000 into your local bank, and the bank is going to pay you 4%. The bank immediately takes that money and they lend it out and they turn a loan into an asset. We think of loans as liabilities, as a bill, but a bank thinks of a loan as an asset. And here's why. So if they pay you 4% and they loan the money out at 7 on a house, they've just made a 3% spread using your money. They've turned a loan into something that makes them money. So you want to start thinking of loans like banks think about them as assets. Now, what happens when this whole transaction happens? The seller of this house gets the money. They put the money back in their bank. So do you see what's happened? You put money in the bank used it to go make a spread, and now the person that gets that money flows it back to the bank. The money always finds its way back to the bank with interest. Okay? It's always coming back to the source with interest. Now, as soon as the bank gets that money, they're going to lend it out again on a car, let's say. The car is going to be a higher interest rate because it's more liability. It moves around, it can get in an accident, what have you. So they're going to charge more. But as soon as this dealership gets the money, they're going to put the money in their business bank account. Do you see, guys, how the money's always flowing back to it, the source, the bank, with interest? As soon as it comes back, bank's going to lend it out again. On a second lien now, on a home remodel, it's more risk than a first lien, which this one was. So it's a higher interest rate. The bank is making a bigger spread. They're running credit. They're in full control of your money. The more control you have, the less risk you have. The bank has very little risk here. They've got a lien on this property, they got a lien on this car, they got a lien on this house, and they're not using their money. They're using yours. Soon as this contractor gets the money, it goes back into the bank. Bank lends it out again, debt consolidation loan. There's no collateral now, so it's higher risk for them. They're just going to charge more interest. So credit card companies get paid off. What do? They put the money back in the bank. Very simple, guys. The bank is constantly moving money. This is called the velocity of money. The more the bank can move the money, the more profit they get. Again, we've been taught, though, to let money sit. We've been taught that loans are a liability. The bank is moving money. They're not letting it sit. They're viewing a loan as an asset. They're thinking completely opposite of what we're thinking. And they're making all the profit. Guys, check this out. The bank paid us 4, they made 7. So they made a 3% spread. Yes or yes? Pretty easy math. Paid us 4, made 8. They made a 4% spread, right? Paid us 4, made 9, 5% spread. Paid us 4, made 8. Or I'm sorry, made 12. So an 8% spread. So how much money did the bank make, guys? Can anyone tell me how much they actually made? Would we all agree the bank made 20%, right? They made 3, they made 4, they made 5, they made 8. It's pretty easy math, right? They made 20%. Man, Rich is on it. Guys, if you were thinking they made 20, you were incorrect. They used 4. So this is their cost. This is their control. They're controlling our money for a cost of 4%. They took that control cost, that 4%, and they turned it into 20%. That is a 500% cash on cash return. When I learned this, guys, I was pissed. I was pissed. I'm like, screw that. Why would I let the bank take my money and go make these astronomical returns when I could just do that same thing? When I'm buying a car, why don't I just be the bank and I pay myself 8%, right? When I am doing a remodel on my house, instead of paying the bank, why don't I just be the bank? You guys can do the same thing by just mimicking what they're doing, okay? You can look it up. There's not a bank in the nation that makes less than 400 to 1300% on the money that we deposit there. Not one bank in the entire nation. That's crazy. And you can do the same thing with your money. I repeat, they're using your money to make this kind of profit. All you got to do is simply take back control of that money so you can make that kind of profit. Very simple. It's just about control. Okay. So let's talk about how we can do that. Very simple. If you look at the annual spending pattern of most people, every dollar that we make, 25 cents of that goes towards, or I'm sorry, 20 cents of it goes towards automobiles. So that's, your payments, your gas, your upkeep. 30 cents out of every dollar goes towards housing, right? So that's your payments, your taxes, what have you. 40 cents out of every dollar goes towards everything else. So that's your travel, your entertainment, your food, your clothing. Think about that. That means that 90 cents out of every dollar is going to somebody else. You're giving away 90 cents out of every dollar that you make to someone else. If you make 100 grand, you just gave away $90,000 to other people. And what that means, this 90% of your money, you'll never get it back, ever. That means that'll never make you money. That's really important. When you give a dollar to somebody and you never get it back, it'll never make you money again for the rest of your life. That also means only 10 cents out of every dollar is yours to keep and to grow. Most financial advisors, most gurus, they'll tell you take that 10 cents and go make a big return. Go make a big profit. What that means though is you got to take a lot of risk. The higher the profit, the higher the risk. So you could lose everything that you have. Guys, I don't want you to take more risk. All I want you to do is start thinking, how can I keep more of every dollar? If I can simply just keep more of every dollar that I make and have that dollar or that money compound and grow for the rest of my life, guaranteed, I can become very, very rich and wealthy, guaranteed. I'm just keeping more money. It is not about how much you make. It's about how much you can keep. That is 100% true. So let's talk about how this works, guys. With your cars, about 5 cents out of the 20 cents you spend on cars goes towards interest. That's on average. So if you can simply just control who's getting the interest on your car, look what you've done to your savings. You've just got a 50% increase in your savings by simply just keeping the interest instead of giving it to a local bank. Very powerful. On your house, 25 cents out of every 30 cents you spend on a house goes towards interest. If you don't believe me, look at your last mortgage statement. The first 7 to 8 years is majority interest. And it's because the banks understand most people do not keep a house for more than 7 to 8 years. And if they do, they refinance it and they reset the clock. So now, again, 7 to 8 years, most of it's interest again. They don't care. The bank does not care about interest rate. Yet we've been taught, ooh, if the rate drops, we got to refinance and get that lower rate. The bank cares about the volume of the interest. So if it's a 2% interest rate, they'll give it to you all day long if you're resetting the clock. If you've had a mortgage for 5, 6, 7 years, yeah, they'll reset the clock on a 2% because now they're going to get even more interest. We got to start thinking like banks. We got to stop worrying so much on what the rate is, and we got to worry about the volume of interest throughout our lives. How much interest we're actually giving away that'll never come back and that'll never make us money ever again. Okay? Everything else, there's about 5 cents that goes towards interest. So, guys, by just controlling the interest, look what we've done to our savings. If that savings goes from 10% to what it is now, and it's constantly compounding and growing, think about how much more money you'll have, short term and long term. Okay. So remember how I went over this slide. The reason why this slide is so important is because this is how a life insurance policy works. View this here, the bank, as the life insurance company. They're paying you, and 4% is extremely low. Generally, with dividends, these insurance companies are around 5 to 6% compounding, tax free. So 4% is just being ridiculously conservative. So they pay you 4% compounding. You borrow from them, let's say at 6%, which I've been doing this for 5 years, guys. Generally, it's around 5%. But even at 6%, You can pay them simple interest. So you're borrowing their money and paying them simple interest, and you're still able to make money all day long. So that's why this is so important. This is exactly how a policy works. This is your money compounding inside the policy. The insurance company is letting you borrow their money. You're just able to pay them back on simple interest. Very cool. While your money continues to compound and grow 100% tax free. So, who here likes cars? Show of hands in the chat. Say I if you like cars, if you love cars. Mark likes cars. Rich likes cars. Davey likes cars. Guys, this car here, I want this car so bad. This is from Gone in 60 Seconds, Eleanor. I want this car so badly. These are like 300 grand, 400 grand, but I'm a car guy. When I learned this concept, how you can get back every dollar for any car you buy, drive, and own, I was hooked. So I've done this several times with cars. I never lose money on cars now. I actually make money buying, driving, and owning cars. So I'm going to show you guys how that works. The machine we're using, it's life insurance. So I want you guys to really start thinking about the life insurance differently. What you're paying in is premiums. I want you to think about that as deposits. I've never met someone that says, you know what? I'm depositing too much money in my bank. No one says that. If you can put money into a policy and it's immediately available, it's more like a deposit, not a premium. So I want you to start viewing your premiums as deposits. The more you deposit, the more you can use like a bank. Remember what we talked about here, guys, on this slide, right? This deposit, you want to start thinking of your premiums as this. The more you put in premiums in deposits, the more you can start moving money like a bank moves money. So start changing the way you think about premiums. You want to think about them as deposits. Okay. I also want you to think age doesn't matter. Okay. I've got policies on my kids. One of my daughters is a year and a half old. I got a policy for her when she was 2 weeks old. I also have policies on my parents and my in laws. So age does not matter. Also, death benefit. I'm not going to talk about death benefit at all. It is something that matters because we're all going to die at some point. But these policies that I'm going to show you guys are more about using the money now, using these deposits, using these premium deposits now while you're alive, rather than somebody getting money when you die. I've never met someone that cares more about the money somebody else is going to get when they die than they care about the money they have now. I've never met someone like that. So start thinking about these things a little differently. Okay. Let's talk about buying that car, how you can get all the money back. So pay close attention to this, guys. And if you have questions, please ask. So you're going to deposit money into your banking system. Let's just round numbers, say $10,000 a year. That's you depositing money into your banking system. At year 3, you're going to buy a car for 20 grand. So if you add these two numbers together, you had cash value, what you can use, of about $29,000, right? Adding those two together. So you're going to borrow, remember, your money is sitting in that insurance company, compounding and growing. You're going to borrow the insurance company's money, just like that last slide I showed you. That 25 grand is the insurance company's money. It's not yours. Your money is sitting, compounding, and growing. So all these deposits you've put in, you're still compounding and growing, even though you're using $25,000 of the insurance company's money. Okay. Now, since you are the bank, you should treat your money just like banks treat money. You should pay the money back with interest. Remember, guys, on this slide here, every time the money came back to the bank, it came back with interest. Money came back to the bank with interest. Money came back to the bank with interest, right? So I want you to start thinking about your money the same way. Pay yourself back with interest. So you got $6,000 a year. That's your car payment, $500 a month. Okay. And to come up with this payment, it's very simple. Just figure out what the bank would have charged you. When you go buy a car, they do the whole here's this, here's that, here's the payment. Let me get it approved from my manager, all the song and dance. But once you agree on the terms, that's what you want, right? That's your payment that you're comfortable with. That's the terms you're comfortable with. That's the interest you're comfortable with. So just simply play that song and dance with the dealership and then pay yourself back that same amount. So for this example, it's 500 a month, 6,000 a year. So guys, very simple math. We've deposited $70,000 into our banking system. We've repaid ourselves 30,000. We used 25, correct? So that means that the total net injection is $75,000. Does everyone agree, or does someone out there do math differently than I do math? We've put in 70, paid ourselves back 30, we used 25. The net injection is 75 grand. Look how much cash value you have at the end of year 7. You have basically 68 grand. So that means you got back 91 cents out of every dollar, and you own that $25,000 car. It's yours. You paid for it with cash. When you paid with this money, you got the title to the car. It is your car. So you own it, and you got back 91 cents out of every dollar. I can assure you, none of you have gotten back 91 cents out of every dollar for a car you bought, drove, and owned for 5 years. Now, it gets better because nobody drives cars forever, correct? So let's just say for the next 5 years, you don't put any more deposits into your banking system. I would never tell you to do that because, again, the more deposits you put in, the more you can use them and the more you get growing. But let's just say to show you how good this is, let's say you put no more money in. You buy a car. Again, these two together is what your cash value would have been. So that's 76,000 bucks. You use 25 of it to buy your next car, and you treat your money just like the bank because now you are the bank. You pay yourself back $6,000 a year, which is 30 grand. So you paid yourself back 30,000 bucks, right? You also use 25. So your net injection is 5,000 bucks. But look how much your cash value changed. It went from 68 all the way to 91. You made $23,000 and you only put in 5. You put a net injection of 5 and it grew by 23. And you own the second car. So you can see, guys, if you would have kept putting deposits in, you would have got more money compounding and growing. This number would be even bigger. And the cool thing is, since you own the car, you could sell it and have even more money. The longer this happens, the more efficient it gets. So if you bought a car over the next 5 years, this number would be even bigger. You would make even more money buying a car. So guys, for this to work, it's very simple. There's 3 things you got to do. 3 rules. Got to pay yourself first. You got to start paying yourself first. We've been taught to pay everybody else. 90 cents out of every dollar goes to everyone else first. You got to pay yourself back with interest. You got to treat your money like the bank treats your money. If you don't, you're saying their money is more valuable than yours. And that makes no sense. And 3, you got to recapture and recycle the money. So when you're paying yourself back, you got to put it back into your banking system. And why would you do that? This money here, when you put it back in here, it's immediately available. This 6,000, when you put it back in to your policy, it's immediately available to use again. You're not losing control of it. This is a closed loop system. There's no taxes taken. It's a closed loop. So when you put this money in, you're not losing control of it at all. So the 3 rules, guys: pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, recycle and recapture your money. Very simple. If this works for a car, what else does it work for? Does it work for a boat? Does it work for a house? Does it work for an investment? Does it work for retirement? I can tell you guys, this works for anything. Anything you spend money on, this will work. You just got to pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, recycle and recapture your money. Super simple. So who here has debts? I'm going to show you how you can get out of debt in a fraction of the time using this concept without paying $1 extra. All you got to do is follow these 3 steps. So You don't pay $1 extra. Arturo said he's got debt. All of you guys have debt. I know you do. Consumer debt in the US is something like $2 trillion dollars with a T. That is astronomical. Most of us cannot even fathom how much money that is. So we all have debt. If you can get out of that debt quicker, you can become wealthy through your own debts. I'm going to show you guys how. So this is actually a client of ours that we helped do this with. He has all this debt. He was 45 years old. He had these 9 third-party debts. They came out to almost $500,000. And this is how much he was paying per year. So on all these debts, these payments, it comes out to almost $6,000 that he's giving to everyone else. This is the 90 cents out of every dollar. That means that this money, he'll never get it back ever again. It's gone. It can never make him money. This money is gone forever. He was saving $25,000. That was his savings per year. So his plan was to take his savings and pay off all of his debts year by year. It would take him 19 years to do so. So not bad. Be out of debt in 19 years. He was 45. So what would that make him? 64. He'd be completely debt free by simply changing where his savings went. So paying himself first, rule one. Watch how fast he gets out of debt. He funds a policy, a deposit of $25,000. That's his deposit into his banking system. That gives him about $15,000 worth of cash value. Immediately, he can use that right away. So he's going to take it, pay off Discover, pay off Lowe's, pay down Nordstrom's. So rule two is he's going to pay himself back with interest. So these payments he was paying to Discover and Lowe's, they include 21% interest and 11% interest. That means he was giving these companies that much interest. If he simply takes it and does rule three, recaptures and recycles the money, he's getting the interest. He's keeping it. So he's becoming wealthier by simply keeping it instead of giving it away. Okay? So he's going to recapture and recycle this money here, 448 bucks. That's just these two numbers combined. Okay? So all year long, he's going to recapture and recycle this money. Year two comes around, he's going to deposit another 25 grand into his banking system. His cash value is higher because that's how policies work. They're guaranteed to grow. Also, he's recaptured all this money into his banking system. That's $448 times 12. So he's recaptured all this money. That means he's got a total of almost 22 grand in year two. So he's going to pay off Nordstrom's, Wells Fargo, his private loan, and pay down his BMW. That means all of this money, rule two, he can pay himself back with interest. So look at this. Now he can recapture 1,900 bucks that he was giving away to other people. That means he's only losing about $3,800 to the banks now. Incredible. This is just year two. His debts are already down to 378 grand. So year three comes around. He's going to deposit 25 grand into his banking system. And look at that. His cash value is more than what he deposited. What happened? There we go. That's crazy. So his cash value is more than what he just deposited. That's how it works, guys. Your policies get more efficient the longer you have them. So generally speaking, by year three, when you put in a dollar, you can use a dollar or more. And then it just becomes more and more the year after year, guaranteed. He's been recapturing all this per month. So this for 12 months is this amount. Together, these two numbers, he's got 48,000 bucks. He's going to pay off his BMW, pay off his boat, pay down his condo. Look how much his debt is down. It's almost half. And we're only 3 years in. He hasn't spent one penny extra. He's just controlled who's getting the money. That's it. So look at this, guys. Now he can recapture almost 4,000 bucks a month in year three. So rule one, paying himself first, that's the deposits. Rule two, paying himself back with interest. That's just paying himself back exactly what these payments are. And recapturing these payments is rule three inside of his banking system. He's getting more money in his banking system because he's not leaking it to outside creditors. So let's talk about real quick. Year one, year two, and year three, he's deposited 75 grand. He's taken loans of 14, 16, and 25 basically from his policy. So he's taken 55. How much money does he have left? Does he have 20 grand left? He's put in 75, he's used 55. Does he have 25 grand left in his policy? No. He's got 75 grand. He still has all this money compounding and growing because he's borrowing the insurance company's money. His money's just sitting there compounding and growing tax free. Really cool. So, guys, this is a marathon, like I was saying, not a sprint. So, year four, he's going to deposit 25 grand. Cash value is even higher. He's recaptured all this all year. So, that's the 44,000. Total of 70. He doesn't have enough to pay off his condo. That's why it's a marathon. Nothing is going to change this year. Balance goes down, so he owes less on his total debts, but he can't recapture this money yet. He hasn't been able to pay off the house, or I'm sorry, the condo. So year five comes around. He's going to put more money into his banking system with his deposit, pay himself first. His cash value goes up. It's guaranteed to. He's been recapturing the 3,600 a month. So that's the 44. He's got 71 grand. So now he can pay off the condo. Condo gets paid off, house gets paid down. He can now recapture this money. So look at this. He's recapturing 4,500 bucks that he used to lose every single month to creditors. His debt's all the way down to 91 grand. All this money he can now compound and grow tax-free for the rest of his life by simply following those three steps. Pay himself first, that's the deposit. Pay himself back with interest, that's paying himself back these payments. And then recycling, recapturing this money. So getting this money into his banking system. Year six comes around and he deposits 10,000. Why is that? He can no longer put 25 grand into that policy. The reason why is he would be putting too much money into a life insurance policy. If he does that, it becomes taxable. You do not want these policies to be taxable. So puts in 10,000, he can use 13,000. That's incredible. That is what is that? That's a 30% cash on cash return. That's incredible, guys. That's 6 years in. He's making a 30% cash on cash return inside this policy. So all he's going to do to avoid the taxation on this policy is start another policy. So he's going to deposit 25 grand into his banking system. He's got these two cash values combined, plus all these repayments of 54,678. All this money, 82, almost 83,000, is in his banking system. So he can take it, pay off the house. He is completely debt-free in 6 years instead of 19, without paying $1 extra, without losing control of his money, without taking on any additional risk. He's simply following the three rules: paying himself first, paying himself with interest, so just paying himself back what he was paying banks, and then recycling and recapturing all this money he was giving away into his banking system. The more he puts into that banking system, the more he can use it, the more it's growing and compounding tax-free. Okay? So here's the crazy part, guys. If he simply continues to recapture and repay himself just on the condo and the house, when he paid the condo off, he had 251 payments left. That was the contract on the amortization. If he just paid that back to himself, recaptured it every month into his banking system, that's $220,000. On the house, 1221, he had just under, 20 years. So that is $273,000 he's getting into his banking system. Almost 494 grand that he's keeping. Here's the thing though, that money is compounding and growing tax free. So if we just use the very, very conservative number of 4%, this number is actually $344,000 that he'll have after this time frame. 405 is this number. So he has $750,000 more money because he put it into a system where it's compounding and growing tax-free. Think of it as like his money was going into a bucket and it was leaking from holes in the bucket. The holes were Wells Fargo, the car payment, the house payment. He was leaking money. He just started plugging up those holes, but kept having all the money go into the bucket. So what happens to the bucket? it starts filling up like crazy. He starts having a ton of money because that bucket is guaranteed to compound and grow tax free. Incredible, guys. So, a couple things we didn't talk about really. We didn't really talk about the death benefit because basically this is not for a death benefit. There is a death benefit on life insurance like this. So, when you pass away, not if, when, your family gets a tax free death benefit. We didn't talk about the loans. You don't have to ever repay them, ever. The insurance company will never ask you for a payment. Repaying the loans is a strategy. It's part of the concept of infinite banking, that rule three, recapturing and recycling the money. If you want to practice infinite banking and be an honest banker, you should repay the loans because then the money is sitting there to use again. You're recapturing it, recycling it, putting it into a place that's guaranteed to compound and grow. But you don't have to. You never have to pay a loan payment. That's really cool. What that does, that gives you unhindered control. You have full control over your money. You can pay it back or you cannot. If you lose your job and you can't make payments back to yourself, you don't have to. You decide whether you pay them back or not. It is a strategy, not a requirement. Okay? The internal values grow 100% tax free. We kind of touched on it, but guys, life insurance came around in the 1700s. The modern tax that we have was 1913. So this predates tax law. This is private law. So it's a private contract between you and the insurance company, which also means that policies are exempt from judgments and law, or I'm sorry, and liens in most states because it's private law. It's not, it's not tax law. It's private law, private contract. Cool, very cool. So it's the safest place for your money to reside because nobody can touch it. It's not taxed, so it's a closed loop system. Everything you're putting in can't be touched by the IRS, by outside creditors, and then you never have to repay loans. So it's something that you control 100%. And oh, by the way, you're gonna die someday, hopefully way in the future. But when you do, your family gets a big old death benefit, tax free. So I love this quote, guys. We're gonna end with this. If poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor any longer or anymore. So true because guys, this is what the wealthiest families have done for generations. Rockefeller family. Rockefeller family has gotten wealthier after generation because they use this concept. You guys might have heard of the waterfall method. Warren Buffett has a lot of life insurance. Like I said, Ray Kroc, when starting McDonald's, Pampered Chef also used this to start her business. Um, yeah, Walt Disney. I mean, the list goes on of wealthy families and wealthy individuals that use this. Banks use it. So if we just mimic what the wealthy and banks do, we wouldn't be poor any longer. So I want to open this up to questions, guys, but also I want you to see here, you can book a call so that you can have your questions answered one-on-one. You could also have us like design you a policy and show you how to use it in your life by using this QR code. If you don't want to use the QR code, you can use this link down here. And I can also put this in the chat for you guys so you have it. But what questions do you guys have for me? We've got a couple more minutes I can spend here with you guys. So what if we don't open another policy when we can't put any more in the original policy? So Rich asked, what if we don't open another policy when we can't put any more in the original? Um, so I think I know what you're asking, Rich. If you don't open another policy, that just means you can't get more money into that system. So in the example with the chiropractor, where he was depositing 25 grand a year, and in year 6 he could only deposit 10. If he doesn't start another policy, that means he can only put 10 grand a year into that policy now. So if he puts in more, it becomes taxable, which you don't want to do because then all of the growth and all that becomes taxable. If you start taking loans, they become taxable at some point. So you don't want to do that. But I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. But what other questions do you guys have for me? And if you don't have questions, guys, make sure to schedule a call. so we can have a one-on-one and we can help you design a policy for you and your family. The cool thing about our company is we don't sell you a policy. We just simply teach you the concept, and then once you know the concept, you want a policy. So we're not going to ever sell you. Also, when you do a policy with us, once it's funded, we follow up with you and strategize how to use it. We have an entire team that's what they're there for, is to help you implement it. Because if you don't know how to use it, it's really just a glorified savings account. So let's see. Arturo asks, can I start with 5,000 bucks? Yes, you could. Just know the smaller the amount that you put in, the less you're going to have to use. So it's going to take a little longer to start doing a lot with the policy, but you could start with 5 grand for sure. So I would schedule a call, Arturo, use the QR code or just use this link here. All right. So Davey asks, is this recorded? Yes, it is recorded and it'll be sent out to everyone via email so you guys can rewatch it. I definitely recommend rewatching it. The more you watch this, again, it's all mindset. It's all mindset. Once your mindset shifts, you start thinking of this just like banks think of it. You need to deposit more money in. So, like, for instance, Arturo asks, can I put in 5K? Once Arturo really understands this, he'll say, wait, I need to put in more. I need to get more money into this banking system. Guys, I started with 6,000 bucks. That was my first policy, 6 grand. I now put almost $1 million a year into these policies because I know the more I deposit, the more I can use. It's just like a bank. If a local bank only has a few people depositing money into their bank, they can't do a lot of loans. But if they got hundreds of thousands of people depositing all their money into the bank now has a huge pile of money that they can start lending out. You want to start viewing it like banks think about it. Okay, so Ike said, how do I determine how much to open a policy with and how soon can I get it back to deploy it? Great question. So you want to deposit or you want to start a policy with as much as you can. That's the real answer. Put as much as you can into a policy because again, the more you put in, the bigger your deposits, the more you can use. And the more you can start paying debts off and recapturing that money, the more you can do an investment and have the returns from that investment come back. But the short answer would be look at what you're saving now. How much are you saving each month? Put that into a policy at least. If you've got a chunk of money just sitting in the bank, throw that in the policy because that is available right away. The second part of your question, how soon can I get it back to deploy it? About a week to 2 weeks. It takes time to get from your bank account into the policy. The money has to clear. So I'd say about a week to 2 weeks. Davey said, I'll be opening my next policy soon. Awesome. Just make sure to use the QR code, my man. Arturo said, I want to put 10K yearly, but I can start with 5K. So, Arturo, remember, you can only put in so much. So if you start with 5K, you can't start putting in 10. That would make it taxable. So if you start with 5, that's your limit on how much you can do. You can't do more if that's what you start with. You can do less, you just can't do more. So start with 5, and then if you get to a point where, hey, I can put in 10, start another policy. So then do another $5,000 policy. So now you have 2 that come out to 10 grand per year. So just remember, whatever you start with, you cannot put more than that number. You can put in less, you just cannot put in more unless you want to be taxed. You don't want to be taxed. So make sure to follow that rule there. But guys, great questions. Make sure to schedule a call using the QR code or this link here, devin.beyourownbanker.com. And we will make sure to have a one-on-one call with you. No cost, no pressure to get a policy. We're just going to show you how it could work. If you want to get a policy, we'll set it up. We won't charge you to do that. We make money when you fund the policy because the insurance company then pays us for bringing them business. As soon as you fund that policy, we're going to reach out to you and have you schedule a call so we can help you implement the policy, show you how to use it with your debts, what debts to pay off first, which ones to start recapturing. We're going to show you the entire system and help you throughout the process. So guys, This has been a pleasure. I appreciate all of you guys for showing up. Make sure, if you haven't already, to schedule your call, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So, see y'all later. Peace out.